In 2001, my grandpa, who I always refer to as Popup, was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I don't know the details, but I remember thinking that it was too bad because my family downplayed the whole thing consistently. I had never suffered a death in the family. I'd never even seen a dying person before, so I had no way to judge just how Popup was actually doing. So I accepted my dad's insistence that his father was doing just fine. Eventually, the doctors told my family to take Popup home. My parents assured me it was because he was getting better. Obviously, my dad would be at my grandma and Popup's house every morning to help out however he could. And every morning after he had done everything he could for them, he would return home and ask my sister if I wanted to go see them. We'd obviously say yes, so he'd hop back in the car and carry us back to their house. One day, I remember having a really strange dream. It was cowboys and Indians. I've never been interested in westerns or all of that, but my Popup loved them. Suddenly, my Popup appears in the dream. Well, not in the dream, more like in the front of it. He's mouthing something inaudible, and I woke up. I looked at the clock, and it was around 7:30. Way too early for my 13-year-old body to be up. But the dream had shaken me, and I crawled out of my bed. My sister was already up, which was equally strange. I said good morning and grabbed some cereal. Around noon, my dad comes home as usual and asks us if we want to go see Grandma and Popup. By this point, he doesn't need to ask, but habits are hard to break. We load up the car and head over. Here's where everyone feigns surprise out of politeness. Before my dad turns off the car, he says, "Guys, I have some news for you. Popup died this morning." I was really stunned. For many reasons, obviously. First, I thought he was getting better. 2, because I recalled my dream and realised what it was he was saying. He was mouthing goodbye. I later realised he had died around 7:30 that morning. At the same time he appeared in my dream. Furthermore, my dad would always bring our dog with him to my parents' house, a little Jack Russell named Lucky. Lucky would always hide under the hospital bed my Popup was in, and the day my Popup died, Lucky skulked out from under the bed as he took his last breath. Lucky then looked off to the far side of the room and let off a chilling howl. Not all that terribly fascinating, but I suppose the true stories rarely are.
This was in winter 2012. I was 18 or 19 at the time. I was working in a petrol station in an average-sized town in England. It was an okay job, good money for somebody who was in college at the time, and it was a shame it was a weekend job, so while my friends were getting drunk and having fun, I was in a petrol station serving taxi drivers and the occasional drunk. It started off like any other night. Serve people, clean up, do the stock, an average night shift work. Since it was winter, the night was really dark, and you could only see faint outlines of people walking back and forth, even with street lights. The place where I lived was situated across the road from a pub, and had an alley running beside it to lead to a housing estate. Around 3 to 4 a.m., as I finished cleaning a set of shelves, I noticed a figure standing in the alley, just out of the light, enough to hide his face, but you could make out his clothing. I initially brushed this off as somebody waiting for a taxi, as it seemed harmless. I sat down on my chair behind the counter and looked at my phone, and played some games for a bit. When I looked up, it was 5 a.m. and he was still there, waiting, watching me. To make my situation worse, after 5 there was hardly any traffic or passers-by. I I had that gut feeling that he had some harmful intent. I was safe, however, as I was locked in until morning. I stared back in a trance, trying to keep an eye on whatever he would do next. After a while, I needed to use the toilet, so I went and then came back, thinking he might have walked off. But he didn't. He was still there. I then decided not to do my last job until my coworker came to start their shift, as my last job was to take out the fire extinguishers and sand buckets. It got to about 6 a.m. The figure faded back into the alley, and I didn't see him for the rest of my shift. When my coworker arrived, it was still dark, and I usually walked the 10 minutes back home, but this night I got a taxi. And after that shift, I still felt like that guy could be anywhere, watching me. I told my coworkers and family members about my experience, and they said they personally haven't experienced anything like it, and wouldn't like to either. I was very nervous when doing my shifts from then on, feeling like as soon as I let my guard down he would strike. But thankfully nothing happened after that. I quit the following summer to go to university. Safe to say, guy in the shadows at night, let's not meet again. I couldn't sleep because something had been bothering me non-stop. I just found this subreddit and thought I would share. I was visiting a new city last week after a 1,500-mile drive. I had felt worn down. I had been on and off opiates for a few years, and in a moment of weakness, the idea of procuring some popped into my head. I decided to post an ad on Craigslist in hopes of making a connection. I got a few responses, but they all fizzled out until one person emailed me. It was the first response that seemed legit, and he left a phone number for me to call so we could discuss things further. I called the number, and a very polite man answered. He got down to business and told me what he has. Everything sounded good, so we made plans to meet. He suggests a public place, goes in depth about how things will go, and sets a time. He gives me a description on what he looks like, and I tell him the same. I get off the phone and start heading that way, when I think to Google the information he gave me about the place. Everything checked out. I start driving, and on my way there, I ended up accidentally getting off of the freeway while waiting at a light. I then notice that there's a name attached to the email. I think, surely it's a fake one. No one would use their real identity. It even sounds fake. Joseph Jones. I start getting a nagging feeling about it, but continue driving. When I reach my destination, I decide to Google the name. I see a few LinkedIn results and was about to close out the window when I suddenly see the words, sex offender. I click on it and see a picture and rap sheet of this guy. He had been tried and convicted of drugging and raping 3 women. At almost that exact moment, I see the guy walk past my car into the place we're supposed to meet. Needless to say, I peeled out of there as fast as I could. I spent the rest of the night crying because I almost jeopardized my life for something so stupid. The thought that I was so close to evil made my skin crawl. The next day, I attended a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and since then, I've been clean.
Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. Big shout out to Frybro for his help with this video. You should definitely go check out his channel. It has some great content and I really think you'll enjoy it. We have 3 paranormal stories coming up for you guys really soon, And the best way to stay tuned for that is to hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't already. But until next time guys, I'll see you in the next one.